Oh, decisions, decisions, decisions. There's a lot of things we have to deal with in life. And one of the most difficult ones, one of the most terrifying things we have to do is make decisions. They can think about it. One choice, one wrong move can totally fuck up your entire life. All it takes is one wrong move. Yet we're forced to make decisions all the time. What job to work at? Should I take this job? Should I start this business? Oh, man, bugs. Freaking bugs everywhere. And it's just, we're not psychic. I'm not psychic. You're not psychic. We can't predict the future. We can't see all the possible outcomes. All we can do is try to make an educated guess. Try to get a second opinion. And just hope for the best. Shoot your shot. But at the end of the day, you're responsible for those decisions. At the end of the day, you're going to have to face whatever consequence, whatever happens. So a lot of times you get into this situation where you're faced with a bunch of different choices, and you weigh the options, and it seems like no matter what, you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. And that can really freeze you, that can really paralyze you. Analysis paralysis, where you're basically unable to make a choice, unable to make a move, because no matter what, you feel like you're just going to get screwed anyway. And I've been in that situation many times. I was forced to make a decision. Sometimes I didn't have a lot of time. And, I took my chances. Sometimes my choices were good ones. Sometimes they weren't so good. And usually some of the dumbest decisions I ever made. Man, bugs everywhere. Some of the dumbest decisions I ever made were in times where I was going through a lot of mental, a lot of stress going on. And I didn't have enough time. I didn't have enough time to make up my mind. I felt like there was a fire under my ass, and I had to make a move quick. Or sometimes you'll have a real or perceived threat. There's something you're afraid is going to happen, whether it's real or not. You make a move and it just ends up, it might work out, it might not, it might just fuck you over. I've made some mistakes that even now, I'm still reeling from, I'm still hurting from. Things that have just taken years to get over. All we can do is hope for the best. All you can do is try to get the best and the most informed decision you can. Try to find other ways. Try to find alternate routes. Maybe there's another way. Maybe you haven't thought of everything. Maybe have a backup plan, a plan B, just in case the first one fails. I'm at a point right now where I kind of have to make a choice, what I'm going to do. And it's like, feels like the options, no matter what, are just shit. So yeah, I guess what I'm trying to do, what I suggest, is just try to find as many ways as possible. Try to find, try to have a plan B. Try to have multiple ways. Try to have a backup plan. And it's one thing when you're young. Because you can mess up, but you have time. You have time to recover. But the older you get, the more you feel like you're running out of time, the more you feel like you can't just waste time and make mistakes. You really got to focus and make smart, informed decisions. At one point, a few years ago, I was working a decent job. I was making good money, the most money I ever made before or since. But I didn't like, at the end of the day, I felt like a slave. I was busting my ass. I was working so much. I didn't feel happy. I didn't feel fulfilled. And so I took a chance. I decided to look for other options. I didn't have to leave, but I decided, you know what? Fuck it. I'm a young guy. I'm a smart guy. I saved my money. I had all this money saved up, so I could try something. And if I failed, you know, I have all this money saved up that I can survive off for a while I find my plan B, while I find another way. I was young, I was confident, overconfident. And I felt like no matter what, I could find a way through. I could figure it out. I was a smart guy, after all. Of course, my little plan, my little venture didn't work out, and I ended up losing it all. Everything I worked so hard for years, working hard for years, 50, 60 hours a week. I ended up in a really bad situation, kind of a financial hole. All my money, everything I saved up, just disappeared. And then before long, I ended up in debt. So I'm still in that situation, reeling from that choice. And ever since, I've been kind of in and out of jobs. I've been having a hard time. Seems no place just seems to fit, no matter what. There's always something that's just fucked up about it. So I've been thinking my next moves. I have a few different options, but not sure where to go. But sometimes I feel like there's multiple paths. There's multiple paths to success. I was naive to think that I could just make it my first time. I was naive to think that everything would just go uphill and continue to go uphill, and that I wouldn't have to experience failure. But ultimately, you have to decide what you want to do. You have to choose your path. And you can also decide how you want to interpret the circumstances, the lessons you have in life that you've learned. I mean, you can let it beat you up. You can just say, oh, I'm a failure because it didn't work out. Or you can use it as a lesson. You can take whatever you learned from the experience and use it to continue to push forward. All the stuff you had, all the skills you've learned, all the lessons you've been through can help you navigate your life in the future. You know that saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So yeah, this is just a little bit of a ramble. Figured I'd talk a little bit about it. I don't know. There's just something about decisions that can just seem so paralyzing. You feel so... You're afraid. It's easy to just freeze and not want to do anything and just wait and think it over. But eventually that clock starts ticking. Eventually you have to make up your mind. And just hope for the best.